So President Cyril Ramaphosa late last night announcing additional restrictions on gatherings, alcohol sales and an earlier curfew as South Africa moves to lockdown alert level 3. Religious services, political events and social gatherings are now limited to just 50 people. That's indoors, 100 people outdoors. This restriction comes while political parties are struggling financially as donations dry up. They say due to the Political Party Funding Act. Now, political funders are deterred by the new regulations requiring donors and parties to disclose donations, with the ANC blaming its financial woes on this new legislation. Let's speak to George Mahlangu now. He is the IEC's Political Funding Chief Executive, and he joins us now live. George, a very good morning to you. It's great to have you on the show on what has turned out to be a very contentious issue. Two issues at play here. It's the Political Party Funding Act that parties themselves are taking issue with. And then, of course, as we build up to the October 27 elections, increased restrictions also putting a spanner in the works, George.
Good morning, Michelle, and good morning to your viewers at home. Michelle, it's common cause that the Political Party Funding Act was implemented on the 1st of April 2021. And it came with restrictions on certain donations, more especially direct donations. So individuals, that is natural and touristic persons, donating directly into the coffers of a political party, must disclose who they are so that the Commission can publish this disclosure for the benefit of the voters.
George, is there a way around what parties are taking issue with at the moment? Perhaps it's important to take a step back and explain to the people who are watching this morning why it is so important in a climate like South Africa, given the extent of corruption in the country, why it is so important to have this level of transparency when it comes to who funds political parties and how much money they are donating.
Michelle, what is important about this piece of legislation is it's mainly around, accountability and transparency. I mean, the voters in general would be, better equipped when they go to the polls, when they go to vote a particular political party, they would be in a position to know who has funded that political party. So it becomes transparent. So we see the legislation as equipping the voter so that they can have better information when they go into the voting booth.
Yeah. So there are two disclosures that must be made, George. The one is that if a company makes a donation, I believe it's up to, or if it's more than 100,000 rand, that donation must be disclosed within a required time frame. Then individuals who make donations to political parties, those individuals are exempt from disclosing. You'll correct me if I'm wrong, George, but the political party itself must disclose within a certain time frame as well.
Yeah, Section 9 of the legislation has a weakness in it. What it provides for, it provides for the donations of above 100,000. That is in kind or in cash or in aggregate. That donation must be disclosed by the political party. Now, the weakness in the system, in the legislation, is that a juristic person, which is a company in this case, must disclose to the Commission within 30 days after the donation, and the political party should do so as well. However, the legislation is silent about an individual. So meaning that if Michelle is the shareholder of Michelle ABC Limited, and Michelle decides on behalf of his company that they will donate together. They will donate a sum of let's say 10 million to the political party from the coffers of the juristic person of the company. Shall in her personal capacity donates 5 million. So that donation in aggregate is let's say it's 15 million. So the 10 million has to be disclosed by the company and the political party. However, the 5 million will have to disclose by the political party only. So Michelle is not off the hook, but it's not a dual disclosure in this case. It's only the political party that will disclose the donation by the natural person.
Yeah, yeah. And of course, if you talk about loopholes, George, there are other loopholes as well in terms of donations that are made that might not be in cash, but let's say in terms of advertising or in social media exposure. There's a loophole there as well in terms of actual disclosure, because the party can still benefit. It might still be worth a certain amount of money, but disclosure is not necessarily needed there.
You're correct. And I think this is a world phenomenon in terms of political party financing. Because if an individual decides to create an advert on behalf of a political party of his or her choice and post it in the social media, that will be deemed a donation in kind, but it's going to be difficult to source or to trace the donor. Firstly. Secondly, it's going to be difficult to determine the cost of donation to the political party. So at the moment, it's going to be, a challenge to determine who the donor is. Something that as time goes by, we'll have to find a way to figure out how to trace donations in kind of this nature.
Yeah.
However, we have picked up that this won't be a South African problem only. I think in other countries as well, they are battling with similar kind of donations.
So, George, what do you make of the argument by political parties that they are being seriously disenfranchised? In fact, the ANC going so far as to blame its current economic woes on the Political Party Funding Act. Smaller parties as well, talking about it really impacting the kind of work they're able to do, especially given that we're in a local government election year.
Look, at the moment, we may not know how political parties run their financial affairs or their internal affairs. So when money comes in, how, they manage such. So it would be difficult, for the Commission to comment on how political parties run their affairs. However, we know that COVID-19 has somehow affected how companies, are generating their profits. So it may be that the statement that has been issued by the ruling party, they might have been affected by their traditional donors. Firstly, in a form of the economy not doing well. Secondly, in a form of identifying themselves, because the legislation provides that whoever comes forward with a donation of above 100,000, they have to, be known by the public. So we may not know exactly what has affected the ruling party in terms of their corporate right.
George, another question I want to ask you is if there is an issue with political parties actually making these disclosures, if they don't make the disclosures according to what is required from them in the Political Party Funding Act, what are the powers that the IEC has to sanction these political parties?
The Act provides for the Commission to work with the Electoral Court. In terms of statute, the Electoral Court is at High Court level. So in an event of such, we can issue directions to the political party to provide, or we can request the political party to provide information. We've got powers to inspect and to look at the books of the political party. To add on the direction, we can interact with the Electoral Court so that punitive measures in a form of fines or up to jail sentence to a maximum of 5 years, depending on the transgression of a particular section of the legislation.
Final question, George. Level 3 of the lockdown, as announced by the President yesterday. We don't know how much that might change in the coming weeks. 4 months to go until the local government elections. If things stay as they are, possibly get worse, we get placed onto a higher lockdown level. How does the IEC, if you can comment on this, how does the IEC see these restrictions affecting possibly the upcoming polls?
You may be aware that the issue of elections are of constitutional nature. So as the Commission, we are preparing ourselves for any eventuality. You may know that there are procurement issues that we have to deal with. So in an event that the elections are not going ahead, we will, take it from there. You may be aware that the Commission has appointed Chief Justice, the former Deputy Chief Justice Museneke, to look at the inquiry on the freeness and fairness of the elections. Now, that report will give us an indication whether the elections will go ahead or not. But as the Commission, we don't want to find ourselves wanting in an event that the outcome suggests that the elections must go ahead.
Okay. George Mahlangu, thanks very much for your time this morning. He is the IEC's Political Funding Chief Executive as we continue to unpack a big story that's affecting political parties around the country.